Okay, and our last speaker of this session is Alistair John from Sheffield, and he'll be speaking about rocketry activities in teaching, focusing on competitions.
Okay, hi everyone. Some of you will have seen this before, or something similar. So I'm from the University of Sheffield, but this is a bit different to the other talks, because this is not what was done at Sheffield, but what I've been doing nationally with Race to Space. So I'll just get started and hopefully explain things as we go. So the idea was to link up rocketry and propulsion training into a larger initiative. So you'll have heard of, and there's some great examples on the Sun website, which was mentioned earlier. It does need updating because it's changing so fast. But you've probably heard of UK SEDS, which is a national rocketry competition, UK Rock, Macquahanish. And we were looking at this a couple of years ago, and one of my students were working on their liquid rocket engine, and we said we need something else, so we want to have a propulsion competition, national propulsion competition. So we created it, and the idea is that links really closely to industry, and then we use those students to link in and do the mentoring and the outreach with UK Rock and some of the CANSAT stuff. So that's what we've been doing. So in 2023, we started the National Propulsion Competition. We had 7 rocket engines built by students, hot-fired in 1 week. We tested the first 3D printed rocket engine by a student team, and we think it's a record for the number of different rocket engines fired in 1 week in one place. We had 100 propulsion graduates around the UK, and these are the universities involved. So Edinburgh, Glasgow, Leeds, Cranfield, Cambridge, Kingston, Southampton, Bath, South Wales and Sheffield. I got some videos which may or may not play. There you go. So that's the Sheffield's 3D printed engine. This is Southampton's ablative engine, so that's got an ablative line and it burns away, but they managed a 10-second hot fire. Next one, Leeds. Leeds engine screamed a bit, which is an instability, but it worked okay. That was water cooled. This was Kingston's, which had a sensor which could measure the burn of the hybrid grain as it was going, which was quite novel. And then we've got an aerospike from Bath. Next, yeah, this was the only aerospike. By the end of it, the spike is no longer there. If you maybe see, it kind of a bit shortened, but it did work. And then the last one, it's Glasgow. Okay, no, I've not got the last one. Last one was from Glasgow and Cranfield. So this was at Westcott Space Cluster with Proton Launch and Airborne, which lots of you will know. Then we had a symposium. So this was early July this time last year. The students all presented what they did. We invited everyone from the space sector and kind of propulsion sector. And it was great for the students to show what they did and people to look around at what they built. Yep, that's what we did. I don't need any more information on that. My slides get a bit slow because there's quite a lot of content here. Is it going to wake up? Yeah, so as a bit of an example of what we did, so the students at Sheffield, they were working on their 3D printed engine. Actually, this is kind of where it came from. So a couple of years ago, with Henry and Dan and some of my students, they wanted to build a liquid rocket engine. We thought, how are we going to do that? That's in 2021. Speaking to Henry, we spoke to the Space Propulsion Working Group, Kathy and others to get some kind of advice on space skills, and eventually we got started. But as an example, it took us 2 years to get that rocket engine printed by satellite catapult, get it machined, get it working. We made loads of mistakes. But from then, so on the 3rd of July last year it was tested, and as an example of how fast things are moving and how much progress the students are making, the students redesigned that engine. We then reprinted it in Germany with a Conity in January. In March, they test-fired that engine, so that's the iteration of their first 3D printed engine. First one was in Inconel This is in aluminium silicon tin magnesium. There's a quick video here. Again, may or may not play easily. I can skip it if needed. We'll let it play for a second. Skip that one. So that was in March, and then 2 weeks ago we went to the desert in Mojave, California, and this is the rocket which now contains that rocket engine, and there's going to be a quick clip here hopefully. So the students then went from testing it in March, going down a bit, flew out to America, and we managed to launch it 2 weeks ago, which is the first liquid-fueled rocket launched by UK students, and it's got the European altitude record for a student-launched liquid rocket. The launch will be in a minute. So the two rockets, one was a two-stage solid, which had some problems, but that solid was already designed to go, so we decided to try and get the liquid working in time, and luckily it worked. There we go. I'll skip the rest of that. There's a slow-mo video of it here. So the way it worked was it's IPA and nitrous oxide, but it was the simplest way you can get a liquid rocket to work. So there you go off the pad. I'm happy to. I'll talk about this all day, so I'll explain later. But that's our rocket engine. So we recovered it. The tank was smashed up, but that has worked. Anyone who knows anything about this will see that we actually burnt through the cooling channels, but it still fired for 11 seconds, and it got to 27,000 feet. So that aside, just a quick example of how quickly the students are moving. And I know lots of your universities will have students really keen on rocketry, and it's going absolutely mad, and I think it's going to keep going, especially when we get a launch from the UK, which could be as soon as August with RFA or Skyroll or the others. Bit more detail. So we're running Race to Space again for 2024. At the moment it's funded by Sheffield, the Space Agency's Office of the Chief Engineer, and Buckinghamshire Council, because Westcott is in Buckinghamshire. And we've got 19 university teams. All the testing is going to start on Thursday. So for the next 2.5 weeks, we're doing liquid and hybrid testing at Westcott. 11 bipropellant rocket engines, 8 hybrids. 4 of the teams are doing liquid oxygen, and there's a symposium like last year, but twice as big on the 18th of July. So if anyone wants to come down to that, it'd be great. We've got about 200 people going. These are the teams. Those are the team's logos. So we've got quite good coverage from all over the UK and representation from Northern Ireland, which is fantastic. So this talk's supposed to be a little bit about teaching. So kind of the philosophy of what we've done, which has worked really well, is giving students access to mentors. So there's that link from industry into academia. The academics don't know everything, but people like Airborne, Proto Launch, even Catapult, just getting those people involved has been amazing. Charles Simpson, Ben Jarvis, you've probably heard of some of these guys. What's also really helped is peer-led learning. So to go along with the students just doing this, they've really been helping each other out. It's really supportive, and we've got this kind of community now and open source approach. So again, in 2021, post-COVID, I was sat there with my Sheffield students. They think, oh, we think Cambridge might be doing this, or Imperial are working on something and it's a bit competitive. That competitiveness is almost vanished. Even though it's a competition, it's not really. And they're really happy to help each other out. The students were looking to do this anyway. This was growing kind of organically. So lots of the teams say we want to test rocket engines. We've got nowhere to test them. And we've kind of helped them out, given them the knowledge and enabling their ambition by giving them access to testing. Because of the managing to get the funding and the access, the other important thing is the ED&I issue. So Imperial and Sheffield have been quite lucky with the funding they've had and the support. So those teams have would probably have been able to do this anyway, but some of the other universities with less either well-funded or embedded aerospace programs wouldn't have had the chance to do this. As an example, just to go back to the peer-led learning, so the students use Discord. Discord is massive now, this age group. What I encourage them to do is every engine that they're building, they have a build thread on there. So they say, we're building this engine, here's what we're thinking, any advice? And then this one has got 1,500 comments on it of the students going back and forth. And because of this nature of Discord, there's an American Discord as well, and we've got really strong links to there. So the Americans, who've had lots more freedom over the past kind of 10 years to do this, comment on this, give really useful advice. Literally, people that work at SpaceX, Blue Origin, exploration company, giving our students that knowledge, and it really gets transferred down and spread out. When we went to FAR in California, we had a problem. Our students just drove to UCLA. They let them in the workshop, fix something that same day. Someone brought some spare nitrous in case we didn't have it. So that international community is really going strong. That's a quick list of all the teams for this year. I won't go into detail, but there's lots going on. And just to say a couple of final things, we're trying to link this to the outreach. So our students are mentoring teams to enter UK Rock. Next year, I'll probably try and make it compulsory. They have to do some kind of mentoring. We said a little while ago we'd set up the competition, get this kind of pipeline going and look towards launching stuff in the UK. There's a possibility of that coming. We're starting to work on that, so that tick needs finalising. Final question really is what to do in 2025. I know it's still 2024, but I spent the last 12 months sorting out this one, so we'll have to think about it again for next year. How do we keep growing? More access to liquid oxygen would be nice because it's quite relevant. We want to do more ambitious projects. So students are working on turbo pump engines. There's a couple of them already looking at electric pumps. Pumps are massive and going to be really important. Lots of stuff in the future. I'd like to be able to test in the vacuum chamber at the National Propulsion Test Facility. I've been told I need to speak to Charlie Haar from RAL Space, and Tony Forsyth did mention something, but I think it's going to be quite expensive, so we need some help if anyone's got any ideas of how we can do that. Because we know so many international teams, we might try and get some international teams to come along, and there should be, I've been told, obviously maybe we have to wait until a couple more weeks, the Spaceflight Competition Fund coming back out again for the second time after it was delayed the first time. It would be great if that could come out in the next month or two so we can apply for it for 2025. And yeah, happy to talk about this at lunch. Thank you very much.